Here we go. Thank you all for being here. This is the $10 trillion threat webinar, Securing Manufacturing in the Age of Cybercrime. Uh, Myself and Shiv are Raiden Dynamics. We're a custom software solution with a focus on manufacturing. Of course, we do service all other verticals, but we specialize in manufacturing. And we've got Mr. Alex Hill with Constellation Risk. But let's let everybody. I'll do some introductions. I'll start. Parker Hendricks with Raiden Dynamics. I am the VP of Sales, so I make sure I'm essentially the link between all the tech talk and the plain talk. So I want to make sure that we can cater solutions to our customers while keeping them secure. A lot of what we do deals with IoT devices, OT plus IT, and that can get kind of dicey. Um, so I want to make sure that we can give you the solution and keep you safe. Shiv, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. This is Shiv Koragal, and I'm the CEO of Raiden Dynamics, where we specialize in CRM solutions for manufacturing in the B2B sector. And I've been in the CRM space for quite long, and I don't want to say the number of years because it'll give away my age. But but I suffice to say that I've seen the Microsoft Dynamics platform from its infancy, and it's been a fascinating journey to see it mature and grow and scale up the Gartner and Forrester quadrants for these softwares, ERP and CRM. So uh, we are pretty excited to be bringing to you all the new features and the functionalities of CRM and ERP in the AI age. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks,
Have a-
Shiv. And Alex, you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Parker. My name is Alex Hill. I am the CEO of Constellation Risk. Um, for my background, I think as you guys may have seen on the announcement for this morning's webinar, the majority of my career has been in law enforcement. I've got over 30 years of law enforcement experience, with the vast majority being with the FBI. In that time with the FBI, I was able to have the opportunity to participate in a variety of different areas in terms of investigations and being exposed to cyber and its impact in terms of the criminal element, as well as the threat that it poses to all aspects of society, really, not just from a criminal aspect, but just from the inherent risk and problems that come with the world we live in today. In addition to that, I also sit on the board of a couple of different nonprofits. And last year, or actually in 2023, I had the opportunity, something came upon me that said, go back to school for whatever reason. And at that time, I went to NYU Law School that offers a program in cybersecurity. And it was there where I really piqued more interest into this sector and had the fortunate opportunity to meet some people who are way smarter than I, but I was smart enough to recruit them. So earlier this year, we stood up Constellation Risk. We are a newly formed startup as of this year, but we all collectively have various experience and backgrounds as it relates to cybersecurity, which really kind of makes us unique in terms of what we offer. Um, Cybersecurity in terms of assessments, as well as some DevOps, and CMMC, the acronyms kill me, that it's going to be more and more required, or at least in demand, I should say, if you want to do government contracts.
Yes, sir. Awesome. And thank you. Yeah, your team is absolutely elite. Just hearing where they all come from has just been mind blowing. So
Yeah, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, I think, towards the end of the presentation. But yeah,
yes, sir. All right. Well, with that said, we'll roll on here. Let me see if I can get this computer to work. All right. So just a quick agenda. So we've got the introductions out of the way. We're going to take some time to go over the current threat landscape, which will include three major attacks that have happened just this year. These are huge names. If you have any interest in cybersecurity, you probably have already heard of these. We're going to do a kind of a deep dive. And then we're going to talk about unifying your ecosystem. If you're in IT, you probably know all about that, but we're going to make sure that everybody has knowledge of it and what the benefits are of having it. And then Alex is going to take over with a really deep dive into cybersecurity and what they can offer your institution to make sure that you are in fact cyber secure with the cutting edge policies, regulations, governance all in place so you can move forward safely. And then we're going to take some time for Q&A, and we do have some deliverables. So if you look on the right side of your screen, you'll see that we will be offering a complimentary cybersecurity self-assessment for all in attendance. If you're interested, just we'll ask for you to type 1 in the Q&A or the chat, and we'll get that to you. And also towards the end, we're going to go into a little bit more detail as to what Constellation Risk can offer attendees of this webinar. So Alex has got some special discounts, and he'll go into some information on that as we close out the webinar. With all that said, we're just going to jump right in. Now, Alex, I'm going to let you take over the current threat landscape.
Sure. Thanks again, Parker.
Yes, sir.
So as we go through these next couple of slides, you're going to see, some alarming statistics in terms of the costs that come with the lack of cybersecurity and what that means. And as we look these over, you can see 71% of cyber attacks in the first quarter targeted manufacturing. That's very significant, obviously. And then the 10 trillion in cybercrime cost. As we look at these statistics, and most of them, of course, a lot of times come from threat state actors, but it really begs the question of, with your companies, where are you in terms of your cybersecurity posture? What are you doing to manage your risk? Do you have a incident response plan? Do you have a documented strategy on how you're going to deal with breaches and respond to those breaches so that you can maintain resiliency in terms of your operations? And as we get into this more, we'll talk about, and you'll hear me probably repeat a lot of things, but as you consider your posture and what you're doing, there's resources out there, obviously, CISA, NIST, to help give you some recommendations and guidance in terms of some of the steps and measures you can take in order to ensure your cybersecurity posture. But one thing to keep in mind, and two actually, is that one, it's not a question of if you're going to experience a breach, it's when. And if anyone tries to sell you on the fact that you can have 100% security and it's not going to happen, I suggest you turn away and find someone else, because it's just false. It's going to happen. There is no absolute foolproof plan to secure you. But what you can do is minimize those risks and manage them more effectively so that you can maintain more efficient operations. The other thing, and this is a thing that I've seen professionally from my law enforcement experience, it's something in my time at NYU that came up in discussions. And that is, and a matter of fact, I just had lunch last week with a former colleague from the FBI who now works for a top 100 Fortune company. And the same topic came up. And that is oftentimes leadership in companies, their focus is what we all know is the bottom line, it's profit. And the way that they oftentimes approach security is, how can I keep things under the rug, off the radar, so that it doesn't impact my bottom line? And my opinion is that will end up costing you more in the end than it is to be transparent and to get in front of the threat. I can tell you from personal experience, I won't name the company, but I had the opportunity to oversee a very, very large investigation several years ago where another Fortune 500 company had a security breach, and they were aware, and they waited for several months, being fully aware that there had been a breach, did not take the active role to get in front of it, attempted to try to just manage it and hope that it would resolve itself in the normal course of business. And it ultimately had a severe impact, not only on the cost of what it meant to their business, but it also ended up landing some executives in jail. Now, that was an extreme case, but those risks are always a possibility, depending upon how leadership takes their approach to manage that. And you can go ahead to the next slide, Parker, because I think all of this is relevant in terms of what we're discussing. But the other thing that's also, I think, an important step that leadership can take, and they often do not, and that is building relationships with regulatory agencies like CISA, NIST, and law enforcement. There are working groups that are available. I know the FBI has what we call the DSAC, which is the Domestic Security Alliance Council. And I think there are certain requirements that have to be met in order for you to participate in that. But then they also have the InfraGard program. And even if, for whatever reason, you don't have the opportunity to participate in the more formalized initiatives, find your respective counterparts with law enforcement, with the FBI and other agencies, and just build those relationships so that if you have something that you see that's on the horizon and you think there may be a problem, there's nothing wrong with picking up the phone and saying, hey, Parker, I have a hypothetical here. Mm-hmm. Let me run this by you. What do you think if this were to happen? What's the potential impact and what am I potentially facing here? Because when you have those kind of relationships, most people are going to respond to you and they will give you some information that will prove to be valuable.
Yeah, I agree. And you touched on something there, Alex, that essentially companies don't want to go public. And, a lot of public companies, they have to file, I think, with the SEC in larger cases. Yes. So we hear about the big ones, but the ones you don't hear about are these smaller cases, mid-market manufacturers, small businesses. And these are the companies that are, can't really can't survive these attacks.
Yeah.
What would you say to those smaller mid-market companies?
I suggest the same thing. I mean, it's what I said in the beginning. What's your posture? Do you have a documented response plan? Do you have a documented management plan and strategy on how you're going to deal with a breach and the disclosure? Building the partnerships and the networking. Those measures apply across the board, no matter how big or how small you are. Those are effective tools to help you manage and minimize those risks.
Yes, sir. All right. And this next slide shows you the breach cost breakdown. I don't know, Alex, do you want to take the lead on this one?
I think it's again, it's very evident of what the costs are going to be if you don't take the proactive measures to minimize and more effectively manage your risk. And you'll see there, one of the things that kind of jumps out is, cybersecurity insurance is something that is becoming more and more popular, and it's becoming more expensive. Talked to a friend of mine who has a company. His premiums, I think, almost double in 1 year. And a lot of that is due to the stat we saw previously where you've got 71% of, manufacturing being adversely impacted by cyber attacks and just poor cybersecurity. And so those are the kind of things, again, if you take the right measures, you can help reduce some of these areas of potential loss that you would experience.
Yeah. And the numbers here, just so everybody is aware, these are average numbers. I would say not small business, but upper mid-market manufacturers is what this is an average of. I think the Georgia average ransom payment in 2025 and 2024 was $2 million. So this would be a little bit larger of a company at $5 million ransom payment, but $5 million is definitely not heard of and not the most. So this is just an example of all the considerations, your legal fees, your forensic investigation, the ransom payment itself, but the production downtime, I think, is what, and we'll see in the slides coming up. That production downtime is the killer, and that affects your reputation. So,
Yeah.
like Alex said, if you're experiencing a breach, the best thing you can do is not try to throw a blanket over it. You really need to get out and get some help.
And as you look at this slide, I mean, obviously the things that we've discussed thus far, are all of those things are going to help reduce each one of these areas. But when you look at ransom payment, forensic investigations and recovery, legal fees, loss of business and reputation damage, those areas in particular, if you've got those partnerships with law enforcement, you can, without a doubt, reduce these areas and those potential costs and expenses. Let me say one other thing too that oftentimes came up in my experience, as well as talking again with former colleagues who have retired and since went on to work for Fortune 500 companies around the country. And they're working in the area of security and or cybersecurity. There's two things. One, oftentimes we see that people want to silo cybersecurity and physical security. That is a mistake. Those two entities should be in lockstep with each other always, because the the misperception is that how does physical security have anything to do with cybersecurity? Well, if you have a breach in your physical infrastructure, let's say you have some threat actor that gets into your facilities because they've gained access that they shouldn't have had access, and this could even be a third-party vendor. If they get into an area where they shouldn't have been and they somehow cause some sort of harm to your network and your systems, that could have been prevented if you have the kind of right countermeasures in place and collaboration between your security and your cybersecurity personnel. The other thing is that when we talk about legal fees, regulatory compliance, forensic investigation, and recovery, oftentimes when companies have a breach or there's some sort of cyber incident that involves a person that's internal, so you have the insider threat. The response, oftentimes, companies want to use their general counsel office, or they want to use personnel from HRD. And I can tell you that more often than not, those are not the people you want to conduct those type of investigations. And it's not a slight to anyone who works in that area. It's simply they are not equipped and trained to do it effectively. They don't know the right questions to ask. They don't know how to ask those questions to solicit the kind of responses that are needed to find out exactly what has happened, as well as to take the right strategy as to how they interview those individuals. Again, I talked to a former colleague with a very large company about a month ago, and that particular company, and it happens to be a company that's in the cyber sector, they had an incident with an onboard employee, and the strategy was for the counsel, someone from legal counsel and someone from HRD, to do a remote interview. That's not the step you want to take. If you have an incident and it involves an insider threat, you need to interview those people in person, not remotely, particularly with AI now and what people can do on the other side of a computer. You don't know what kind of response you're getting, if it's actually the person. You don't know if they have someone guiding them, they're using some sort of tool, whatever the case may be. You really need to interview them in person.
Yeah, and we're hearing that a lot with these job application scams. So they're finding new and interesting ways to use this technology uh, for malicious efforts. Every single day. You could study and research it hours upon hours every day, and you're still not going to know everything that they're trying. So it's definitely important to have qualified professionals. And Alex, I know you guys are traveling and certifying and staying on the edge and on top of stuff constantly. So I definitely have trust in y'all's ability, and that's why we're so happy that you're here.
Thank you.
But let's move on to some actual instances that happened this year. First up, May 2025, Nucor steel production. So Nucor is the largest steel manufacturer in the United States by a large margin. They control the market completely. In May of 2025, May of this year, they were attacked with some ransomware. The losses are undisclosed. They did not go public with a lot of the information. The hacker group is unknown. It's suspected that it was probably state sponsored. So someone essentially from another country coming in with government backing and attacking. So the way that they got in through the IT system and their OT system. They soon realized once the breach happened, their OT was completely wide open. And that was because they had legacy OT systems. So when they breached IT and it was connected to OT, Nucor knew that they had to shut down. So they shut down production for days. And if you can imagine, if you halted steel distribution in the U.S. for any amount of time, the millions upon millions of dollars that would be lost, not only for Nucor, but all the residual companies that receive those materials. So they suffered massive supply chain disruptions, an undisclosed amount of financial loss, and they had to shut down their plants in the U.S., in Mexico, and in Canada. So major disruption. And again, hopefully one day Nucor comes out and helps educate the public on what exactly happened. But we do know that this was a major attack, and everybody felt the heat essentially. In a case like this, Alex, what do you think could be done?
Well, I mean, the first thing that jumps out that's obvious is, again, what kind of strategy did they have in terms of their cybersecurity posture? Were they conducting audits? And had they conducted an audit, I would say it's almost certain that even if certain vulnerabilities had not been found, the recommendation would have been made to have measures in place to be able to monitor the IT and the OT both to see where the vulnerabilities might be, so that even if nothing was found at the time of the assessment, it could be found later if there was a threat posed. One of the things everybody should always take into consideration is having a semi-annual assessment and audit conducted to ensure and look at the health measures that are being taken, as well as the current health of their IT and OT systems and operations. That's the main thing. And then, I'm looking at this slide and we're talking about supply chain disruptions. One of the other things is when you're talking about doing an assessment, you need to assess your supply chain, third-party vendors and who has access. What do they have access to and why? Do they need those accesses? Have you conducted some sort of minimal background check on your vendors? Those kind of things are critical because, your third-party vendors can be just as much as a threat as any internal threats you might have. The other thing is, in addition to having those assessments done, you need to have some sort of either annual or biannual InfoSec and insider threat training, just to keep people on their toes and keep them in the mindset of, operational security and things that they need to be paying attention to, and then monitoring that in terms of what those things might be that might show indicators of a potential threat. Those things they certainly cost a lot less than the expenses we saw in the previous slide.
Yeah. And one thing that we come in contact with as far as a potential crisis or issue, Alex, is the big thing is digitizing factories, right? Smart factories. Everybody wants everything connected, and for very understandable reasons. From an analytics and reporting standpoint, if you want to be on the cutting edge and stay competitive, a lot of people need that data. There are a lot of inherent risks when you connect IoT devices, OT to your IT. So it knocks on a point right here. Make sure you've got a trusted integrator. If you're dealing with automation integration into a CRM or an ERP or a SCADA or MES system, you really need to make sure that A, the integrator knows what they're doing, and B, do you have somebody like Constellation Risk lined up to check the work? I think you brought up a great point. It probably needs to be somebody third party, because if you've got your IT department, they're the only person checking the stuff. That stuff becomes familiar. They may overlook something, opposed to somebody with fresh eyes like you guys at Constellation Risk, who are going to spot stuff.
Yeah, and this, another point when you're talking about IT and OT integration, this is a great segue to talk about AI integration into both, because AI can be used for, security, and it's just as much of a positive attribute as it is a negative attribute that it might pose a threat. But in this instance, AI integration is something that should certainly be considered, because the integration of IT or AI into your IT and OT, into your ICS and OT environment, gives you the ability to be more efficient, collect that data that is coming from the OT environment into your IT systems, so that you can use that to predict, behavior, look at potential threats and vulnerabilities, how you might need to respond, and just optimize your operations.
Yes, sir. And you guys specialize in a lot of AI implementation and
Yes.
work.
That's another service that we would provide. Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, any other comments on Nucor, Alex or Shiv?
Nope.
All right. Let's go on to the next one. So this is supply chain. June 2025. Estimated losses of $400 million. This is something that was coordinated by Scattered Spider. They are a pretty well-known hacking group, and they utilize double extortion. So not only did they infiltrate United Natural Foods systems, they then, of course, exfiltrated the data and encrypted it, and then held that over their heads for ransom. So unauthorized access led to shutdown of the automated food delivery services. It's national shutdown, and these UNFI, they supply places like Trader Joe's, Aldi, Kroger, Publix, big names all across the country. So you might have remembered it. It was on the news. 3 days shut down, and there were huge grocery store shortages across the U.S. And 30,000 grocery stores were affected by this. So this is a huge deal. And when we talk about this kind of hack, this reminds me a lot of how exposed we are from a national infrastructure type of way. I know Atlanta's court systems have been hacked. I know that there have been various water systems, clean water plants that have been toyed with. So this is a big deal. What do you think, Alex?
Well, and again, and as I said earlier, you're going to hear me repeat a lot of things, because these things are the things that need to be done in order to minimize these kinds of incidents. And if they still occur, which, as I said, there will be a breach, it will give you the ability to better respond and isolate those threats so that you can maintain resilience. Talking about social engineering prevention, again, that goes back to InfoSec training and insider threat training, keeping people in the mindset, looking at the recommendations of like NIST. I think, when it talks about the kind of plan, how you govern, how you are planning to detect, protect, response, and recover. You think about those things as you're making your plans. It will give you the kind of footprint you need to follow in terms of the measures you need to put in place to help reduce these types of attacks.
Yes, sir.
I think social engineering just brings forward the fact that, the misconception is cybersecurity is an IT thing. It's the tech guys who'll take care of it. But it just shows, every person of the company uh,
As
is
a role.
involved here.
Yeah.
Every person has the responsibility. So everybody needs to be trained. It is like a team going to play a game. It's like we all have to be in it as a company.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. With that said, let's move on to the next one. So this one's interesting, and I honestly delayed in choosing this particular one because there's tons of cyber attacks this year. But this one's important, and it's a little different. So it affects Salesforce, which is a direct competitor of ours. I mean to throw no mud. They're a great company. They have a great product. It serves a different vertical typically than what we target. But they have absolutely been waylaid this year. 760 and growing attacks. 760 companies attacked. Estimated losses in $1.5 billion range. And this is Shiny Hunters, another prominent hacking group. The exploit says phishing and vishing and social engineering. The way it kind of started though was with a very loose open authorization policy that Salesforce had with Sales Drift, uh, which is a third party essentially a chat, Teams uh, type integration. So they were finding third party companies that had need for these open authorizations, and they were stealing these open auth tokens, and then infiltrating the system from there. They paired that with vishing, which, if you're not familiar, like phishing, but it utilizes AI to mimic the voices. And oftentimes, what they were doing is mimicking the voices of IT professionals. So somebody in the IT department, they would get them on the phone, have them talk for a certain amount of time, enough to emulate their voice. And then that voice emulation would be used to target an employee to get login, MFA access. They would change their passwords, they would change their MFA. So at that point, they could infiltrate the system and so on and so forth into infinity. This attack affected companies like Google, Chanel, Stellantis, which owns, I think, 7 or 8 of the largest automakers in the world. It's a huge conglomerate, and so on and so forth, 760 plus times. So this just goes to show you that hackers, if they want to get somewhere, they're not going to just stop with a phishing email. Yes, that's super important to have those policies and protocols in place. But if that doesn't work and they really want to get in, they're going to try all different ways they can. And if you're dealing with a company that has, I'll say, loose policies as far as third party integrations, you're just opening that door wide open for the hackers. So this is going to open up a lot of conversation into the following slides that we have. But Alex or Shiv, do you have any comments on this one?
Yeah, I would just say here's another example of where the AI integration could play a key role. There is software now that's being developed that um, you can use the AI integration to monitor your web browser. So if there are threats that are being posed that are coming through your web browser, whether it's internal or a lot of times nowadays we have employees that are working remotely and they're accessing your network from outside of your infrastructure. It monitors that web browser to see if there are threats that may be posed coming through the web browser. It also looks at any threats in terms of any applications you have and use. And then finally, it looks at the any threats that are maybe posed in your cloud. And so that that software basically is constantly monitoring all aspects, and it's collaborating and giving the human element in terms of someone monitoring what's going on, almost a real time, you know, work product or analysis where they can look at it and tell where threats might be on the horizon or occurring. And they can quickly isolate those threats so that it doesn't have a tremendous impact in terms of overall operations. So that's something again to consider.
Absolutely. Thanks. I think in the next couple of few slides, we will unveil what Microsoft has to offer on the same lines. Alex, thanks.
Yeah, and I think this slide brings up, I don't know if you see on the right side there, that last one. I've been dealing with CRM for a long time and all kinds of software. But when I was working in automotive, I remember our IT department really being and doing a good job in shutting down a lot of kind of shiny new software solutions because they needed to do the research, and they needed to vet the system and make sure that everything was closed up. So applause for that IT department I worked with, because this last thing, you have to understand the inherent risk of any kind of new software. And I think if a lot of these places that were implementing sales drift chat integration in these Salesforce use environments, a lot of this could have been stopped. But trust was given and trust was betrayed here. So always be vigilant there. Appreciate the IT department that does that. All right, on to the next one. Zero trust architecture. This is where it all begins, essentially. So this is your basic foundational steps when talking about cybersecurity. And I'm just going to go through these fairly quickly in the interest of time. But if you have questions, please stop us. And obviously, if you do have questions, we do have a Q&A section that's being monitored. Please put your questions in there. And as a side note, if it is something that would expose vulnerabilities, please don't put it in the Q&A. Please put it in an email to Alex or myself or Shiv, and we'll get those responded to. But zero trust architecture, regular updates and patches. If there is a gap or a breach, let's say they found it in California, the software company responsible for the breach is going to try to patch that quickly. So us here in Georgia, opposed to California, we should apply the update as soon as we know. Again, always good to read patch notes, etc. But just know that oftentimes when those updates and upgrades happen, it's not to change the font of the header of the program. It's usually to patch or close a potential exploit. So make sure you're updating your software as those updates become available, even if they're a little uncomfortable, even if you like the old way or the old look. Usually they're there for good reason. Multi-factor authentication. So we know authentication. Multi-factor is obviously when you sign on or log in, and it requires you to go to another device or authenticate yourself via another platform. With key authenticators, Microsoft Authenticator on your phone. Sometimes you'll get a code via text. That's multi-factor authentication. Very important in rooting out bad actors at a basic level. Backup and recovery. A lot of, we'll start here. Data is the new currency, essentially. You need it for your AI models. You need it to market. You need it to exploit. So data truly is the new currency. So you need to make sure that your organization, no matter how large or small, is protecting not only your data, but your customers' data. And you need to maintain it offline and encrypted. That way, when these hackers come and find an exploit in your system, and like Alex said, it's not a question of if, it is a question of when, you have your own backup and it's encrypted. So it makes it that much more difficult for somebody to hold that data over your head and charge you $2 to $5 million. So very basic stuff here. Network segmentation. I'm not going to go deep in on this one because Shiv's going to cover that in a following slide. But it's very, very important to know where lateral movement is possible, and to close those gaps as quickly as you can when you're connecting IT and OT. Again, that's something we deal with a lot on the CRM side in dealing with manufacturers. Every organization has some potential exposure to this, so please make sure you're taking notes on that front. And Shiv, like I said, will go into deeper detail there. Employee training conducted by qualified professionals, somebody like Alex with Constellation Risk, a third party to do cybersecurity awareness training. Because even if your systems are airtight, even if you've done all the upgrades, updates, backups, segmentation that you possibly can, you still have end users. And I would say the majority of recent attacks happen due to human error or human exploitation. So please, please, please make sure you're training your folks. If you need help or you feel ill-equipped, please reach out to somebody like Constellation Risk. But that is essentially zero trust architecture. I always grew up heard trust but verify, and this is just verify, 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 no trust, right? So just make sure you're checking out all the boxes and always say stay suspicious. But with that, I'm going to let Shiv, with his genius technical mind, take over here and go over some of the deets on data protection and threat defense.
So thanks, Parker. So for when we see all these vulnerabilities and how the fragmented systems can lead you to all these kind of situations, what comes to mind is how can we fix this? What is the solution for all this? And the solution that we as Microsoft partners are suggesting is one system, one ecosystem where CRM, ERP, your OT, IoT, everything comes under one umbrella. And instead of juggling 10 different vendors for 10 sets of vulnerabilities, you get a single pane of glass, and basically response times are faster, compliance is built in, and you save money while becoming more secure. So what you see on this slide is basically these 8 aspects of any information data landscape in your business that need to be taken care of with the highest level of seriousness by any software or an ecosystem, software ecosystem. So you see here we have identity access management, the threat protection, we have cloud security, we have information or data protection, we have information governance, we have insider risk management. Alex just talked about people who intentionally or not intentionally inside the company are doing risky things. We have compliance management. We have to make sure our policies are compliant. And of course, in case of an event, a cyber attack, how prepared are we to discover that as soon as possible and respond to it in the quickest way? So taking how are these 8 aspects of the landscape taken care of? So we can proceed to the next slide, Parker. And so this is what is a threat landscape, or basically entire attack chain showing up on this slide. So we'll start on the extreme left, where you see that a phishing email is sent over, and how it either contains a URL or an attachment which is infected. And when a user clicks on it, and it appears to be personalized, so intentionally or unintentionally they click on it, it proceeds to install something on your endpoint, which is either a phone device or your laptop or such. It could also be from a website that the user or the company employee is browsing on, that this kind of a threat can be unveiled. And once the undesired action or unintended action is taken by the user, the software gets installed on your endpoint, and basically now it becomes a command and control center for the external threat actor. In a similar way, the same IoT devices can be exploited. You can see at the top. And once this is done, basically the threat actor has an entry to your system as a user account is compromised. This could also be through brute force. People have, the threat actors use different kind of softwares to break open your passwords or mm, discover user accounts where the password security strength is not enough, and they're able to get into your system. Uh, Once this happens, you'll see that the threat actor has direct access to your OT environment, possibly if uh, if the necessary precautions have not been taken and segmentation has not been done. They are able to access your OT environment, which is the shop floor, machine floor, and so on. The other thing which typically happens is the attacker remains undetected and remains dormant or in a reconnaissance mode where they move laterally across your systems to uncover further vulnerabilities. They gain access to a account which has higher uh, privileges, and then basically they make their final moves where they can use those higher privileged accounts to access your data and compromise your domains, bring down your website, and um, exfiltrate the data. So if they get access to secure data, they as we saw in the earlier examples, they either take control of it, encrypt it, and do the double extortions. So how do we provide a solution for this? And we as Microsoft partners, you will see that the entire landscape is mapped out with different softwares which take care of this. So the Defender for Office 365 comes in for Outlook and your Office softwares. Moving forward, we have the Defender for endpoints. Whenever anything is getting installed or on your devices, the Defender for endpoint comes into picture. The Defender for cloud comes into picture. The Defender for IoT and OT comes into picture. The Defender for identity comes into picture. The Microsoft Entra ID protection figures in. The Defender for Cloud Apps, and basically the entire threat landscape is mapped out by these softwares which take care of the threat actor getting into your systems. And as Alex was pointing out, these are external threats. There could be internal threats also. So if you see at the bottom of the slide, you'll see uh, folks who are intentionally or unintentionally, either they are distracted, careless, disgruntled, or disenchanted, or stressed out for whatever reason. They exhibit behaviors which are risky. So and these are taken care of by the security copilot, which monitors these behaviors and generates alerts, and works in tandem with Microsoft Defender and Microsoft Sentinel. These are the SOA. Mm, these are the softwares which use AI and machine learning to find out, to hunt for threats, and immediately generate alerts, and also help us take care of situations where an infiltration has happened. So I think this kind of shows the entire landscape of how these threats and uh, dangerous situations are taken care of by Microsoft's um, functionalities and softwares. And we can go to the next slide to take a quick look at how the CRM, dynamic CRM, factors in and contributes towards the keeping the entire uh, uh, ecosystem secure. So the Dynamics CRM is basically built on Microsoft's secure cloud infrastructure on Azure. and Microsoft invests heavily into cybersecurity. There's 8,000 experts monitoring the cybersecurity. These are all cybersecurity experts, not just IT experts, cybersecurity experts who are on Microsoft's team to constantly um, evaluate these threats and act on them. As explained by Parker, there's the zero trust architecture built into every software that we spoke about and we saw. Microsoft Entra ID, we spoke about that. Multi-factor authentication, conditional access, RBAC and field level security is another granular feature of Microsoft Dynamics, where RBAC stands for role-based access control, and it makes sure that only those people who are authorized to look at certain level of data get access to see that data. The field level security also means the same thing. And the Dynamics is compliant with GDPR, SOC, HIPAA, FedRAMP, and ISO 27001. The compliance manager within Dynamics takes care of audit readiness. There is a very strong audit module within Dynamics which makes sure that every action taken by any user is tracked. Security Copilot, as we saw, helps analyze any undesirable action being taken occurring anywhere in the entire ecosystem. And automatic security updates keep the systems safe and resilient.
Awesome. Too cool. Well, thank you, Shiv. And I think with that, we'll hand it back over to Alex to tell us a little bit about constellation risk.
Yeah. So, for the sake of time, because I know we're closing in on an hour here, so we probably need to wrap up and let everyone get back to it. But as you see here, and I stated earlier in the beginning, so I recruited 6 of my classmates from NYU, and all of us have backgrounds and experience with the organizations or agencies you see represented here, from the Navy to the Army, FBI, X, formerly known as, I guess, is Instagram, Google, Amazon. We have one member that is former executive director over private equity for a major bank. We also have one individual who has experience as a CISO over a private hedge fund and up in the northeastern part of the country. So we have a lot of vast experience and background as it relates to cybersecurity and just security in general. And one of the other things too that I want to mention here, you see at the bottom of your screen, the post-quantum encryption, and we're talking about some of the measures to take in terms of ensuring the integrity of your systems and being able to be resilient when you respond to a threat. One of the other critical steps that everyone needs to start thinking about and taking a step forward is post-quantum encryption, to get the right type of hardware to store, as well as the software to encrypt legacy data as quantum technology becomes more and more prevalent in computer science as we know it. And I had the opportunity when I was at NYU to go up to IBM's campus in New York and see what they were doing in terms of quantum computing and technology. And the discussion, I find it interesting. So that was 2024 when I went up on the campus, and when I started at NYU was in 2023, and here we are in 2025. And every time I hear someone talk about, quantum is 10 years away. Well, it was 10 years away in 2023, 10 years away in 2024, and I hear people today say, oh, it's 10 years away. I would say to you that is probably too far out based on what I was seeing. I would say it's more like 5 to 7. It's right around the corner. I mean, it's here. It's just a matter of it being, perfected and utilized more and becoming more of a tool than what it is, but it's here. And I think people need to start taking the measures now to prepare for that rather than wait. And that was something that was surprising in the study that we did, is that a lot of companies essentially were dismissive of the fact that it was something on the horizon. The attitude more often than not was, hey, we'll deal with it when it gets here. I would say again, that's not the approach to take. If you know it's on the horizon, prepare for it now so that you're ready tomorrow.
And Alex, you can help with that, correct? I mean, if somebody
Yes.
reached out to you. Okay.
Yes, and so as you see, and discussed earlier, I mean, cybersecurity assessments, consulting, OT and IT security, GRC and compliance. If you need, to be, certified so that you can do business with the government, we can provide you what you need in that respect. We do have the CMMC qualifications to be able to provide those type of certifications for you, and then post-quantum encryption.
Awesome.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
here, again, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time and beat the dead horse. I mean, we've talked and covered all of this over the past hour, but just a reminder of the things that you need to be cognizant of as you think about your cybersecurity posture.
Awesome. Very cool. And we talked about AI a little bit. And like you said, Alex, probably in the interest of time, we should move any questions about AI, unless anybody has something quickly they want to add about AI.
I think we covered good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if there's anybody that's watching or watches this later, if you have questions, by all means, don't be hesitant to reach out, send us an email. We definitely will respond to you.
Yes, sir. All right. And I'll just put this on the screen. Benefits of CRM and cybersecurity. I mean, they're ketchup and mustard, essentially. So they go together, and these are just a few of the benefits of if you were to work with Raiden and Constellation Risk, you could expect these benefits. But this slide deck will be available after the show. I'm happy to send it. Just shoot me a message on LinkedIn or via email, and I can get this over to you so you can review. But closing comments, guys. What do you have?
Just the one thing that I'll add, if you weren't with us in the beginning, Parker had mentioned that Constellation Risk as thank you for participating in this webinar with us today. If you reach out and want our services as a thank you for listening to us and considering us, we will give you 20% off of any assessment that we conduct for you.
Wow, that's huge, Alex, and I certainly appreciate that. And if there are any people in the chat or anybody that sees this later, like Alex says, that would like the complimentary cybersecurity self-assessment, please let us know, and we'll get that shot over to you today or whenever we receive the email. You can reach me via LinkedIn, or I do have our information here. So, like I said, you can reach all of us here. And Shiv, do you have any closing comments?
No, I think I just wanted to say that, in the world where cybercrime is becoming a 10 trillion shadow economy, I think we as the manufacturers, the innovators, the builders, we must lead the counter revolution. We have to act to be prepared and partner with proactive intelligence.
Absolutely. Yeah. And on that note, the term hacktivist gets thrown around, but what we're talking about are people that are hitting bottom lines, affecting our jobs, stealing our proprietary information. These are not good people, and we all have to work together to close these gaps, and we all have to remain vigilant together. I consider anybody who has a concern for cybersecurity a part of our community, and we welcome open conversations. I think all three of us do.
Yep.
There are some things we do ask for money for, services, right? Services
Yep.
provided, but we're all open to have some conversations because we want everybody to be cyber secure. So we appreciate your time. Alex, thank you so much. Shiv, thank you so much. And we do these once a month, so I'll look to see you on the next one.
Thank you all. And thanks for all
Thanks.
who are listening.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Parker. Thank you all.